So I'm interviewing Teresa Nelson, who happens to be my aunt, but she is an entrepreneur and she owned a restaurant called the Red Moose.
Correct.
So we're going to just talk about her experience with that, and so I can get some more information on the restaurant business. So first off, what was your overall experience with starting your company?
So I had been dreaming about starting a coffee cafe place for about 20 years. So I started doing research on what areas were good and where I should start and what kind of things would really take off. Now, as you know, we live in Utah. There's not many people that drink coffee. So Starbucks was really the only coffee place around at the time. And I really didn't want my focus to be coffee. I wanted it to be my home cooked pastries and everything. So we started we tested the waters and we did like a coffee kiosk at the University of Utah football games when Urban Meyer was the football.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we did a kiosk and we had Skylar and a couple of the kids work it and kind of tested the waters to see if it would even take off. And we were the busiest kiosks in the stadium. Between hot chocolate and coffee and specialty drinks, it was slammed every time. So then we decided we started going online looking for little drive-through shops like the kiosks that you can buy. So we bought a kiosk in somewhere in Wyoming. We went and picked it up and brought it back, and we were trying to figure out a place that we could put it because you have to have plumbing and you have to have rights, and so we did all that research. And you have to go through the city planning commission just to have a drive-through. It's not like something you can just drop in. So we put it in what we thought was a busy parking lot. However, we didn't do enough research on that and found out that there were 4 gas stations on the corners, and we were in a parking lot. And we put it in Magna, of all places, and people in Magna were perfectly fine buying their cup of coffee at 7-Eleven. They didn't really understand what good coffee was. So we closed that up, and then we found our location on 17 South, and it was amazing. And the things that I've learned from running it is one, you need to know your customers, which we did a lot of research on when we opened our second place. Our first place we didn't. So you need to do research on that, and you need to know what you're selling. We laugh about it because there was more Mormons working at the coffee shop than there weren't, but each of the people that were there studied the coffee and studied the beans and knew what kind of beans were good, and when we started roasting it, all of them knew how to roast and what was the best. We also at that time decided we had been to Seattle a couple of times, and we had decided that we wanted to do a food truck so that we could take our coffee out to the locations and also the pastries and stuff. We were a step ahead of everyone else, which you would think would be a good thing, but food trucks have not taken off yet, and now it's crazy, and now everyone has a food truck, and you don't need the permits that you needed like we had to have. Now you can pretty much just go park your truck wherever you want, and you don't have to have the permits. Yeah, there's a lot of it, depending on which city. So know your product, know your customer base, own your own building. By not owning our building, you're putting all of that money into rent. Even though we got a good price on our building, it was still really hard because you could have put all that money back in. Our prices were very competitive. Some of the problems that you might look into is that you're pretty much married to that business. It's like another child, and you need to realize that you need to take some time off for yourselves, which we didn't because we were so busy building it, and we wanted to make it successful. And in order to make it successful, it was better for us to work it than have a whole bunch of people working it. We had the building for 6 years. It took a full year to get it ready, which is another problem because during that full year he charged us full rent, our landlord. So we wasted a whole year of rent and time that could have gone towards the building. sure that you want to make it, one of the things that people say now, even after I've sold it, is that they miss the personal touch. When you open your own business, a lot of people forget that personal
You need
touch.
the thing that makes it different and better.
Yeah. And people still go to the Red Moose, but it's not the same.
So what did
And
you bring as a personal touch?
our personal touch was I knew every customer, and I would ask about them, and they were part of the family. I wanted to make my coffee shop, my cafe, somewhere that anyone could come. I didn't want it to be where only rich people could come. I didn't want it to be where only non-Mormons could come. I wanted it to be everyone was welcome there, and families were welcome there, and little kids were welcome there. We had a little corner that had toys for the kids to play or to read. And we also made it available that dogs could come, because in Sugar House it was a very dog-oriented place. So people could bring their dogs in and have breakfast and in there with us. So those were the neat things. I was there all the time. It was either me there all the time, or Rob was there, or one of the boys, so that they always knew, and it was a family-oriented business.
So you were talking about competitive prices. How did you know what to price at to stay ahead competitively?
You go to, it was a lot of research, on every coffee shop, every cafe in the area. Within a 10-mile radius I went to and got their menus and sat down with their owners and sat down with them around